Alright, how you doing today? This is the GE-7 series locomotive loading testing diesel electric locomotive GE engines AA rated alternator power rectifier CHEC excitation. Our description: test equipment, vessel tools, preparation for load testing, power plant operation, voltage regulator check, engine speed check, engine overspeed check, load test procedure, open circuit voltage check, current limit check with a horsepower power check, curve check, calculating gross engine output, restoring locomotive for the service, loading limited curves, B187, B237, C237, B287, C287, B37, C37, B367, and C367, low horsepower output, possible cause exhaust smoke analysis. Allied Publication Power Machine Self-Loading CHEC Excitation Voltage Regulator FH23 Description: load test should be performed periodically to ensure the locomotive power plant is producing rated horsepower, especially after the major overhaul of the power plant, replacement of the equipment, destruction gap with the checking of the output for the power plant. Load test may be applied adjusting the horsepower for the overhaul of the engine to determine the condition of the engine with the surface of the locomotive, the accumulated tasks with the data with determine the effectiveness overhaul with the rebuilt with the guide with the maintenance for the work to improve the engine overhaul and performance. Starting of the cable to one, the substitution loading device with the cable to positive terminal power rectifier with the insulation sleeve, the over the cable to terminal with the positive cable with the traction motor, positive lead cable to the loading device, and the GA control wire. Instrument for the meter for the list for the test on only those items. Only these need for the bank, and then make the horsepower check for the power plant and desire for the check for the operating feature for the locomotive that may be desired to apply the additional information before the condition of the testing and refer to the appropriate instruction additional instrument for the power matching the self-loading of the minute of the instruction information for these and feature for the Allied publication listed in the contents. The instruction is assumed that the underground of the resistor below of the type of load will be used. However, this does not prohibit the use of any other type of the loading device, and incentive for the testing and preparation connection procedure will be similar. Warning: to protect against fatal injury, the electrical shock. Do not proceed with the load test with both the frame of the loading device and the locomotive are properly grounded. Test the equipment and special tools. Loading device for the connecting cable. The meters were recently calibrated to 1 plus or minus a quarter of a percent accuracy, either loading the unit like EM99 water box arrangement. 49 pin card standard, ammeter shunt 0 to 6000 amp if loaded with unmeter unit meters not accurate. Voltmeter 0 to 1500 volt DC. Voltmeter 0 to 150 volt DC. Tachometer 0 to 1500 RPMs and overspeed test layer. Prepare for loading test. Check the blocks of the wheel during the test to prevent possible locomotive movement. The desirable the power matching the feature during the loading the testing locomotive is equipped. They have the lifting wire of the terminal L with applying the jumper between the terminals EXEPL and XPM on the FL138 excitation panel. If the desired unloaded compressor for the duration, test the jumper with positive 75 volt DC with a coiled magnetic valve. This keeps the compressor from loading with regard to the extra load of the engine. Load testing connection refer to the locomotive with the schematic connection diagrams. Disconnect all the traction motors at the positive terminal with the power rectifier panel. Do not disconnect small control wire to GA with the excitation panel with the sensor required to control the excitation system. Connect with the positive cable to the loading device and play with the motor with the cable to adjust move with figure 1. Ensure the loading test with the cable position. Start with the safety handle the maximum load current that you with the test through. Insulate with the cable lugs removed above the non-contact may be made any time during the test. Note: when the connection cable of the wire lug to be sure of the lugs to have flat and clean mating surface to be sure of the correct side of the current quantity of the hardware used properly with the connection applied with the joint compound. This will prevent with a hot spot for the connection to prevent loose power. B. The disconnect and insulate with all the traction motor cable the current reactor for the ACCR for figure 2 for the load current with the mouse path for the ACCR during test. Do not disconnect the small GN wire for the load testing. Circle the negative cable of the loading device with the negative end of the reactor to show the loading current passing through the reactor during the load test. Include a current measure for the shunting of the negative cable to the loading device and an accurate load meter do not be built on the loading unit. Warning: proper precautions must be taken to protect personnel with the possible contact with a high voltage meter reading wiring, suggesting all meters to be enclosed large box with clear plastic protective cover. If there's no accurate voltmeter with the loading device connected to 0 to 1500 volt DC volt and amp across the rectifier terminal GA to GN, it is important that the cable to and from the loading device of the sufficient side of the quantity to keep the voltage drop through the cable to the minimum. Notice: it is imperative that all the meters that you've been loading tests are accurate, calibrated quarterly. Accuracy with the calibration of the meter to determine the precision of the horsepower calculation. Digital type meters are recommended due to the retention of the calibration. However, do not apply with the voltage except for their rating. Also, you unplug the way cycle engine charging during the usage. Current on the 0 to 150 volt DC voltmeter with reverse current diode panels, 75 FM 203 with the cathode side with the 4 wire or N wire with the battery charging. The circuit with the meter will then read the charging volt. Do not attempt to read the battery volt across the blade meter's battery switch with the across the voltage regulator. Alright, install the 0 to 1500 RPM tachometer generator with the tool with the parametric digital meter with the engine. Apply with the tacho generator at the 1/2 inch pipe plug with opening beyond the overspeed generator governor on the right side of the engine, figure 3. Figure 2 shows a substitution of loading device cable to negative terminals to ACCR. The ACCR, the GN control wire, the negative cables from the loading unit. No, a hand tachometer with extension can be used with applying with the same location. Shut off the air supply of the NS1. Control air, reducing the valve with the drain. Control air reverse to prevent the possible operation contact during the test. Remove the insulator of the battery power wire. EF from the EC switch for the reverse of the GR for the GOLR. Interlocking to limit the control power from the power contactors. If corrected, horsepower check with it is to be made with the measure for the fuel temperature from the fuel line with the engine, between the secondary fuel filter and the header. They read the ambient temperature of the barometric pressure just before the after the horsepower check with the load test. If the accurate barometer is not available, the elevation of the test site. See the calculation gross engine output section. Alright, power plant operation. Starting the engine. Check the engine proper level of the cooling water, lubricating of the fuel oil, and the governor oil with the load test can be completed without stop. 3. Check the level of lubricating oil with the air compressor, traction generator gear unit with the radiator fan gear. 3. Measuring the engine speed of the tacho drive, fitting the governor drive with the gearbox. Check the fuel linkage for the system on the engine that is properly lubricated with the operates freely as the check output pressure for the fuel oil pump that should be 40 psi idly slightly less than the higher at the higher notches. Check all the rotating apparatus loose of the broken brushes, any form material correct, any in the unsatisfactory condition before proceeding. Check if the non-warning devices are tripped if the engine air filter indicator with remove the air supply hose to the overspeed and fuel control device. Overspeed link with under the engine control governor at this device and plug with the hose fitting. 6. Preset the loading device high resistance in the circuit drive with the starting of the engine. Ensure the circuit through the loading device and open it during the engine starting to minimize the drain and the battery. Start the engine when the engine has been overhauled with the braking procedure listed in the publication section found DE15 with the maintenance manual. Check with the system leaks and any of the sign with the distress correct any of the faults of the proceeding. Turning on the non-essential auxiliary load with the lights for the electrical cabinets, water coolers, also batteries are all full charge. If the D-rater link must not be loaded fuel strainer, but the fuel filters must be clean. Alright, check the power limit switch on the operated locomotive with the ensure the normal notch 8, not the notch 7. Voltage regulator check. If before proceeding the load test, check with the voltage regulated to proper regulation seen between 73.5 and 74.5 volts with the idle and full engine speed. Read the voltmeter instead of the battery installed in the battery charging circuit. If the connection need, loose with the locknut of the manometer with the face of the regulator panel with the FH23 with the turning of the adjusting screw to obtain the proper voltage, then tighten the locknut again with the see the allied publication for the publication. Further information is required. Engine speed check. The running the engines with the notch 3 and notch 4 until the water temperature is at 150 degrees or above. The check of the engine for the proper crankshaft speed with all the notches. Refer the engine control governor instruction if any with adjustments necessary. The tachometer should read between 1553 and 1568 RPMs and a 1045 to 1050 RPM engine speed. Engine overspeed check. For the engine heated with the normal operation with temperature run at idle no load with the place of the overspeed tap with the lever tool with the end of the outer cup of the overspeed link with the figure 4 with the race set for the back fits over the head with the clamp holes of the fuel arm connected to the bottom of the link. This pivot pin with the test lever with the press down and the end of the tool raised both with the overspeed link with the governor power piston outspeed shaft output shaft with the extend with the rack the increase for the engine speed with the trip point with the overspeed governor is reached with the dumps of the oil pressure into the link. Link is then permitted to extend the return to the racks and shut down position. Read the engine speed with the digital meter and at the moment of the overspeed link extends. Load testing procedure. Note, load test accordingly local railroad safety regulations. Open circuit voltage check. With the engine normal operation temperature open at above the 150 degrees of proceed as followed. Move the brake handle to the off, reverse the handle to forward, and reverser to handle the forward or reverse position. Move the engine control to switch and run and then close with the GFC or circuit breaker. Warning: the electrical shock can be serious or fatal injury. To avoid its injury, personnel must observe proper precautions. Figure 4: increase the engine speed with a special tool overtest lever tool. Setting a load device to open circuit for the close for the control circuit breaker with the EC panel with the move of the throttle handle with the notch 4. Observe that the volt and test voltmeter that has been properly connected to give it the positive for the reading. Step the check if the voltage lies with lower notch. Ensure the excitation system is operating properly, that it will not produce an excess voltage at notch 8 which could cause severe damage for the equipment. Gradually advance with the throttle handle to the notch 8 with checking the open circuit voltage for each of the knots. Never allow the voltage to extend even given the load of the characteristic curve of the figure 7 through 15. A small change in the open circuit with the notch 8 voltage can be made by resetting the VL third panometer of the upright end of the corner of the CHEC panel, the control or the constant horsepower excitation control panel. However, the first check of the properly RF of the reference car is applied with the right intent of slot with the locomotive model being tested over the otherwise be speed with the current limited check with making adjusting many of the required adjustments to CL panometer 4 with a repeat with the open circuit voltage check. 5. When the air compressor running on unloaded read the voltmeter across the power rectifier is open, the circuit voltage should be between limits as shown with the appropriate loaded current limit. The curve for this is the zero current left hand with the curve of the C figure 7 through 15 with the typical curves to otherwise special curve of the locomotive being tested. 6. Return the throttle handle with the idle position. Current limited check with the reloading of the unit itself and set with the minimum resistance for advance the throttle notch to the 4 with the air compressor running and unloaded. Take the voltage current reading of the points of the appropriate load curve in figure 715. Caution, do not hold the high current load any longer than necessary in the particular equipment against the high temperature of the damage developed by the high current. Gradually advance the throttle to notch 8 with watching the ammeter to be sure the limit of the shown in the curve is not overrun. Read the meter of the plot point with an nearly vertical right end of the curve of the point should be followed between the curve of the line limits in the line with the point applied with the notch 4 with the original left corner of the curve. 3. If the points do not fall in the correct position, check with the proper curve applied with the 10th position with the RF of the reference card. The type of the locomotive being installed is table 2 with the GE. If the adjustment is required with the brake of the seal with the 4th panometer for the under of the cover of the right end of the panel, adjust the give of the current value which will fall within the limits of the curve on the resistance line, being the U of the line should be cross curve somewhere below the low right corner, and the check for the load control parameter with the figure 5 of the brush arm with the engine control governor is operating with the 5:30 o'clock or maximum field position. Return the throttle handle to the idle position if the rheostat is adjusted to repeat the open circuit voltage check for determining if it will still when the curve of the sense of the adjustment may be checked with the envelope side of the whole curve. Horsepower curve check. Note that the curve position of the load curve is constant horsepower section of the resistance step of the loading unit with the select with the get points of this section. Since the resistance of the loading unit move the throttle handle to notch 8, plot the point on the appropriate curve, then return the handle to the handle to the idle. Make another selection on the resistant loading unit. Repeat the number of the points can be checked with the manner. However, checked in this manner. However, only the resistant values for available loading unit may be used. Caution, do not hold the high current loads any longer than necessary to protect the equipment against possible damage due to the high temperature developed in the high current. Refer to the field FL 138 excitation panel instruction for additional information. Proper operation of the load control parameter and the engine control governor figure 5 when near standard of the test conditions. The indicator should not be let go less than 4:30 o'clock. Maximum field position 5:30 o'clock. Anytime during the horsepower curve check, it does not go lower than the value reference excitation panel instruction for the possible corrections. Our figure 5 shows the loading control parameter, engine control governor. Show once again the indicator position and the load control parameter within 12 o'clock position. Maximum field maximum at 6:30 position. White indicator maximum field at 5:38 position. Load control rheostat panometer load control relay load control point. Panometer indicator with the 4 o'clock position near maximum field excitation electrical current. The curves in figures 7 through 15 are based on the standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 engine speed with the power matching disconnected step 1, 10 with the resistant lines 1 through 10 with the resistant lines of the EM99 loading unit. Of the resistance can be used with the valves applied on the same curve of the found necessary to load on some of the other devices on the EM99 step resistance are given in the dating table under each for the curve figures 7 through 15. Or calculating gross engine output. The total engine output is adjusted for the following standard condition: 1,000 foot ambient foot elevation, 16 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature, 6 degrees Fahrenheit fuel oil temperature, 28.86 mercury absolute barometric pressure, fuel oil temperature, ASTM number 2 diesel specification. After the fuel rated volt amp of the load for the curve has been applied, the reset the load resistance at the test point to a point with the midway with a constant horsepower portion of the curve like step 5. Continue to run diesel engine in notch 8 for 5 minutes. The rectified current to settle out will then record all the meeting with the record readings will then air compressor the running unloaded record the fuel rack setting of the fuel indicator pump with the check of the fuel oil header pressure of the 40 psi compare the value of table 1 they do not check with the oil output for reverted section DE8 of the maintenance manual. Table 1 shows your fuel rack jack setting measured in inspections, engines 8, 12, and 16 cylinders, locomotive horsepower traction, injection pump size large, notch 8 RPM speeds 1 1,405 to 1,057. Notch 8 tachometer RPMs 1,553 to 1,568. And then your engine notch 8 full speed gap at 0.34 of an inch gap, and idle speed on the rack setting millimeters at 31 to 32, so 1 and 1/32 of an inch gap. Record the following tests in conditions you the calculating gross engine horsepower, barometric uncorrected, air in temperature for the radiator on both sides, and air in temperature for the blower, fuel oil temperature, and fuel which all in Fahrenheit, fuel oil pressure and header 40 psi. Calculate the total gross engine output of the jet for the horsepower standard conditions. Complete table 2. Horsepower alternator and accelerator is equal to voltage times amp over the 746 times 0.95, or voltage times amp times 0.0141. Horsepower air compressor unloaded, table 3. Horsepower radiator fan ventilator blower, table 4. Horsepower auxiliary generator fuel pump battery charging, 3 horsepower. Total horsepower engine step 1, 2, 3, and 4 plus. Uncalculated horsepower adjusting standard fuel temperature factor, fuel density, API factor, inlet temperature, fan radiators factor, tested evaluation barometric pressure, figure 6, all figure 6 Z, X, Y, and W. And then total test site evaluation, barometric pressure absolute over the corrected gross engine output. Alright, we're looking at the scale on the right. You have the calculation unloaded compressor, load, the test site evaluation foot, C percent of the actual horsepower. Then you have your barometric reading, which is bottom line W, inlet temperature, X line, fuel, Y fuel, heat line, Z fuel temperature line. Factors to convert it over speed to horsepower, in increments of a half a point on the horsepower over speed curve. You have your fuel temperature, your heat value, inlet high temperature, and evaluation fit. This is your correction for your turbocharge. Also, calculation table 4, calculation blower radiator fan gear ratio, which is basically either 1023 to 1 or 1073 to 1. Part number pitch 23 to 26 degrees. Blower radiator fan. Notice the test site evaluation fee, FE and power actual current, air temperature percent of the actual horsepower. Restore locomotive for service. Remove all the test equipment, disconnect all the external wire and cable to restore all circuit to normal, including power matching. Open the NS1 reducing valve and unclose the control air drain cock. Previously prevented the locomotive movement to restore the air compressor control to normal. Replace all the covers of the proper plugs, proper location. Remove the tracks and blocks under the preventing locomotive. Alright, this is your output current DC amperes over the terminal VCs, and the 100 graduating in 100 degrees and notches 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 from the bottom output. Then you have your this is also B23.7, EM91, BC23.7, B28.7, C28.7. B37, C37, B36.7, C36.7, and then we're going to read the, alright, your item, electrical items. 1E, low control voltage, possible cause, the voltage regulator failure, correction, reset rheostat, replace or repair panel. Item 2E, low voltage power supply with the constant horsepower acceleration control current panel with a 15 plus or negative 15 volt DC faulty FT740RG card. Replace and repair the FT740 card. 3E, reduce the acceleration model operation of the LED on the FT734 card. Any defective condition continuous on the FT card, faults, turbo signal, wheel slip signal, correct the fault, move the switch, reset panel, defective FT card, replace or repair the FT733 card. Item 4E, low acceleration operation. 1, your possible cause, and then read by the correction. Inaccurate test meter, reset calibrated meter, traction motor cutout, reset switch, high-low oil temperature, check oil cooler operation, FT738, filter card, out of calibration, replace card, ORS, overspeed, engine control, engine governor solenoid, engine eyes in error, fixed circuit, extraneous signal over the H terminal with the constant horsepower acceleration control panel, check the speed out, and then wheel slip panel output should be 0 volts to standstill. Bad CMR or ACCR reactor, replace reactor. Alright, item 5, E. Lower alternator output. Reading the possible cause and then the correction. Power limit switch in the notch 7 position, 400 to 600 horsepower low in notch 8 only. Reset the switch to normal. Running single phase, check each of the phase voltage. Filter card FD738 out of calibration over the ACCR and the voltage current reactor. Replace the ACCR and VCR. Mechanical items. Poor combustion, 1M. Item 1M, poor combustion, incorrect pumping time, retime engine, incorrect valve tappet clearance, readjust proper clearance, air leaking over the intake manifolds, elbow, turbo, to intercooler, replace O-rings, bent or broke manifold section, racks not set properly, readjust the injection pump racks to same correct setting, correct buildup, carbon buildup within cylinders, inlet port, move the air inlet manifolds, clean ports, fuel as low fuel heating value, submit sample to the lab test, faulty fuel injectors, replace bad injectors. Alright, mechanical item 2M, overspeed derator, link expander, high ambient temperature clean intercoolers, air side and water side, high manifold temperature clean intercoolers, air side and water side, low oil pressure faulty pump with regulator, overspeed governor. 3M, mechanical low fuel oil pressure plug, filter elements, replace element, plug strainers, clean strainer, regulate valve set low, recalibrate valve, suction pipe, add admitting the air, tighten the valves, and replace tube piping and hoses. Alright, Item 4M, when provided, engine control governor modulation, low oil pressure, correct cause low pressure, low water pressure, correct cause low pressure. Item 5M, low turbocharged speed, cold lube oil, let system warm up, reading bearing problem, replace turbocharger, carbon buildup, replace turbocharger. Item 6M, engine control governor, air leak for the tube of the manifold, replace and bend and tube, air sensor malfunction, replace governor, load control pilot valve imbalance is 344,000 of an inch with an air okay, replace the governor, binding fuel linkage, clean fuel and lubricate. Alright, your table 6, exhaust valve smoke analysis. Item 1, black smoke puff. 1, possible cause and correction. 1 or more defects of the injectors. Recondition chamber of the defective injector. Fuel pump at the rack is stuck. Free the rack and chamber of the pump. Fuel pump rack is set too high. Locate the high rack of the readjust. Fuel pump the rack is out of time. Adjust timing. Warn damage to turbocharger. Repair and replace turbocharger. Broken leak in the manifold pipes. Repair and replace manifold. Engine speed over bogging down. Check the engine operation circuit for fault. Turbocharging, sir. Inlet ports with largely blocked with turbocharged misassembly nozzle, ring of a diffuser, clean cylinder, inlet ports, and dirty. If dirty. Turbocharger, rotor stuck to replace turbocharger. White smoke puff. The fuel pump is out of time. Adjusting timing, cylinder valve of the burner stuck open to replace cylinder. Engine is too cold, warm. Wait until the warms up. Cylinder with low pressure. Replace cylinder. Fuel system is airbound. Please the fuel system. All right, blue smoke. Blue smoke and oil out of the stack. Fuel ditch, turbocharger bearing, sealant, replace turbocharger work, broken piston rings, replace rings, cracked piston crown, replace piston and rings, cord liner, replace cylinder and rings, reprolong the operation, idle load, engine conditions should be clear up. Alright, steady smoke. Warning of the leaking injectors. Change injectors. Late pump time on all cylinders. Time of the injection pump. Water out of the stack. Cylinder seal. Leaks or cracked turbocharger. Locate and crack. Correct. Blow exhaust system, broken exhaust manifold, repair and replace manifold section. Valve tappet clearance insufficient, readjust valve tappets, clean cylinder valve and stuck it. Open, replace cylinder, clean valve seat with the gutter to replace cylinder. Transportation System Business Division, Erie, Pennsylvania, 1653, General Electric locomotive. And that was the last of the electric loading testing instructions.